Hello my fellow book lovers and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you've never seen my face before. I'm Taylor and I do book style related videos. Not style related, I just do book videos. Anyways, I am super excited for today's video because if you didn't read the title of it and you just randomly clicked on it, we are going to be reading the Harry Potter series for the very first time. I am bursting with excitement. Like I literally, every time I start a video, I'm always like, I am so excited to be doing this. Whereas literally, and I don't look it, right? But I promise you that's just my personality. But right now I can tell you how excited I am about officially starting this video. I bought the whole set off of Amazon because I knew. I was like, I'm not gonna start this series and then read one book at a time or in between other books. No, I'm gonna read them all at the same time or one right after the other. I have been a Harry Potter fan for so long. I wanna say at least over 10 years. I remember the first Harry Potter film I think I saw in theaters was the Half-Blood Prince. At the time, I think I was 12 or something. No, that's incorrect. That's highly incorrect. That could be correct. I don't remember. Either way, I had never seen any of the other ones, but my cousin had asked me to go see the movie with her. And she was older, she loved Harry Potter. And I was just okay, literally having knowing nothing about the series in general, other than the fact that I knew it was magic and stuff like that, and that it was really popular. I think when I was younger and Harry Potter would come on, I was actually a little scared because of Voldemort. And so I never wanted to watch it because Voldemort kind of scared me. When she asked me to go see it with her, I was obviously older and I was kind of just okay, I went and saw it. So I'm very excited to be reading the books for the very first time because every single year I watch the Harry Potter films in the fall time, right? So the fall time starts and me and Michael, we sit down and we watch every single Harry Potter film because that's just the time you do it. You can watch it any time of year and it be perfect, but the fall and winter time is just so atmospheric when it comes to the Harry Potter series. Every single year we sit down and we watch it. And every single year I sit down and I have the same questions. I'm always why do the Dursleys hate Harry so much? And why is Snape doing these things? And how is Sirius just here right now? Weird things like that in the books probably have answers but had to be cut out of the movies for time's sake. Whereas if you had read the books, you kind of know the answers, but it's just random little things as to why certain people's relationships are portrayed this way and then all of a sudden it's shifted, or just little things like that. Especially the biggest one is why the Dursleys hate Harry so much. And I feel that's something everybody knows. This is definitely going to be a spoiler-free reading vlog. If you've seen the films, probably talk about stuff that's in the films. So if you haven't seen them yet and you don't want to watch this vlog, I don't know. I'm probably going to talk about things that I know are in the films when I'm talking about my thoughts and my feelings and reactions and stuff like that to things. But maybe I'll do a little spoiler section. I don't know. We'll see when it comes time for me to edit this video if I'll do spoiler sections or not. But anyway, I always have so many questions. And I'm you know what? These probably would be answered if I just read the books. And we all know I love reading. So why wouldn't I read the books? Doesn't make sense. Honestly, the math isn't mathing as to why I hadn't read them yet. I remember saying when I was younger too that I would never read the Harry Potter books just because they're so long. But when I look at them right now, I literally am I've read the books longer than this. So there's no reason for me to say that anymore because they're not long. I have read book series that are pretty long and have read books longer than I think this one. This fifth book. So yeah, I'm very excited and I've been droning on for a very long time and I think it's pretty obvious that I'm excited. So let's just get started right on into it. I am planning on doing this as a very chill type of vlog. I don't know exactly how I want to structure it yet. I'm just gonna kind of read and stuff. I've been really loving just chill reading vlogs. Okay, you guys. All of these books also are on Kindle Unlimited. I know it says if you look it up, it's not on there, but if you go and click on them, they're on Kindle Unlimited. So I'm gonna be going back and forth between the the physical books and my Kindle because I don't know, I just like doing that. Sometimes if it's a really chonky book that, it's gonna help me, especially when it comes to Order of the Phoenix. I'm gonna need my Kindle for that big boy. Anyways, I'm gonna stop yapping and we're gonna get started. Okay, so I'm already on the second chapter of the book, and I can already see like obviously the similarities and the differences within like between the movies and the books. And then also I can kind of, since watching the movies first, like there are some names in here that I recognize, like Mrs. Fig. Mrs. Fig in the movies doesn't come up until like I think the 5th or 6th movie. She's never mentioned or anything like that, and then she's already mentioned in this one as someone like Harry doesn't like going to her house because her house smells. And he always has to look at pictures of her cats. I already like seeing like the foreshadowing of like what is to come eventually, because as of right now, like I don't know like if they changed her character, whereas like when she showed up in that 5th one, the 5th or the 6th movie, like they just reused the name, or if like it's gonna turn up as to who she is. So, and then like all the mysterious things that keep happening to Harry because he's a wizard obviously and he just doesn't know. Yeah, it's like so interesting to read. And then plus my main question was, why do the Dursleys hate Harry so much? And so far there isn't really like an exact answer as to why they hate, well I mean there is, like it's not necessarily said, like they just hate him because of who he is and who his parents were. It's kind of crazy, and like I guess you can kind of see that within the films too, but like just like getting that clarification in the book of like there's no actual reason as to why the Dursleys hate Harry. They just hate him because of who his parents were and who he is. And he has no idea who he is other than what the Dursleys have told him. So his whole life is just like, these people I live with hate me and I'm miserable my whole life and I have no idea why. And it's so strange because Harry obviously goes to school, and like I never put the 2 and 2 together that like Harry would have also have gone to school in the movies, but like don't you think like social services would have been called or something? Granted, I know it's a different area, like it's a different time period as well as a country. So social services there and here are probably quite different. But like don't you think like someone would have called social services and being like, this one boy literally is so undernourished and clearly looks like he's never seen the sun, as like the other boy who lives in this same house who's always bullying him like is this fat rich kid. Like it doesn't make sense. But anyways, yeah, I'm gonna continue reading on and update you as I go. Just a really quick update because I've been reading, okay, I haven't been reading for that long. I want to say I've been reading for probably about like an hour and a half maybe, and in between that time Michael's at work, but he called me. I talked to him for a little while, but anyways, just a quick little update. So I am now 50 pages in, and so far in this one it's like very slow going. Like right now because I know what the movies are like, and I know exactly the sequence of events. Like everything is still happening like a play-by-play of like what happened in the film. The only difference is that I feel like the events that have happened before Harry like goes to Hogwarts is they're just like dragged out a bit just because they are in the book, and it's like a lot more details and stuff like that. As of right now, what we're doing is that all these letters still keep coming for Harry after Uncle Vernon is like trying to get rid of them and like take them away. So right now they're actually at an unknown location hoping that no more letters show up. And if you've seen the movie, you kind of know what happens at that very point, but if you don't, I'm not going to say anything. But yeah, so all the letters for Harry to go to Hogwarts keep showing up, and then since Harry isn't reading any of them, more and more keep coming every single day. Basically, you know, they go off a secluded area so that no one can find them, so that none of these letters can get to Harry. I'm excited because I know what this next part is coming up to be, so I'm hoping that it picks up a little bit. But as of right now, it's kind of, I don't want to say boring, it's just a slow going because I know what happens, so I'm already like used to everything. Listening to a fireplace ambiance with like a little jazz music, listening to this, it's all perfect. Yeah, and I'm gonna continue reading, and I guess I'll update you, I guess, if anything big happens or if anything exciting or different that I want to talk to you about. Yeah, but right now I am 50 pages in. All right, you guys, I am now 56% of the way into the first Harry Potter book, and so far it's the same but different, if that makes sense. Like, the characters and the way that they're described is so different than the way that they're presented in the movie. Like, Hermione and Professor McGonagall's characters like are, I don't want to say like so different, but Professor McGonagall comes off like way more like stern and like almost in a way like, I don't want to say scary because that's not the right term, just stern and like, I don't know. Anyways, Hermione is almost like unbearable, you know, like, you know how in the movie she kind of like plays it off as a know-it-all. Well, in the book so far, she's kind of like, she's very unbearable in like her character. Like, she's very much like so headstrong and very know-it-all and very much like in other people's business, and other people like don't really like her. It's so strange because she is kind of like, she is a know-it-all in the books, but she's also like a sweet girl. Like, she's nice and she does have friends, but it's so weird that the way that she's like described in the book, in the first one, as well as Hagrid. Hagrid is honestly very much the same, and so is Draco. Draco is more like despised in the books than he is in the movies. Like, Harry just kind of like tolerates him in the movies, whereas in the book he like genuinely talks about how he does not like Malfoy at all. Like, he just does not like him. I don't want to make any spoilers. I don't want to say any spoilers, but he just doesn't like Malfoy at all, which is obviously not a secret because he didn't like him in the movies. So if you've seen the movies, or if you know anything about Harry Potter, you know that Draco and Harry are not people who are friends. But yeah, so I'm 56% of the way through the first one. I'm gonna be honest. Not that I'm bored, it's just really slow paced and it hasn't like picked up yet. Like, interesting things have been happening, but we'll see how like the other ones go, or like by the end of this book how it goes, because obviously like watching the movie so many times, like I already know so much about it where like nothing's surprising me, and literally they take dialogue straight from the book and put it in the movie, which I actually love. Like, the fact that like it was written down on paper and then it was said in the movie and it still is kind of like makes sense, whereas like a lot of the time where like dialogue in books transfer over to real life very well, whereas the dialogue in that does, so that's kind of nice. But yeah, that's the only thing I came on here to update you on. Is I thought I would have been able to be almost done with this book already, like with how much I was gonna like fly through it. It's actually really slow paced. Not something I was expecting. That was not something I was expecting. Good evening, you guys. It is late right now. It's probably like almost 10 o'clock. Please ignore my air conditioning is on, as well as Michael's downstairs yelling about a video game. I just finished, well, I didn't just finish, I actually finished it like probably 45 minutes ago. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, the first book. I am very excited that this is done. Not in a bad way, not in a bad way. I'm excited for it to be done because I want to move on to the next book. Like, I am very excited to like continue the series and like see like what other like questions I've had like kind of be answered, because actually so many of my questions about the first movie was answered in this book, surprisingly. Like, it almost seemed like my questions weren't going to be answered and things just like happened just because, and I'm really glad that they ended up being answered, which is awesome. So it was a really, I don't know, I think maybe just because of like the level of reading, or like because of the age level, the grade level of reading this book is, it was very slow and very much like, I don't want to say boring because it was obviously an interesting storyline, but I already knew the storyline after watching the Harry Potter movies for so long. They really did a great job of the books like following like the plot line of the books so well. Like, the movies and the books are very, very similar, which I really like, because I hate it when a book series turn into movies and then they change it entirely and I'm like, what was the point of that? I'm very happy that they kept things super, super similar. But yeah, so I finished Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or Sorcerer's Stone, whatever you want to call it. Like I said, I really, really liked it. I really loved seeing like Harry's transformation, and this, again, like another thing that's like more popular in books nowadays is like that found family. Like, he found his home within Hogwarts, even though all these things kept happening and like some negative things, you know, and like people he's met that he doesn't necessarily like, but he's found friendship and a family and a home within Hogwarts, and he's willing to fight for that and like and be there for it and like do anything he can to protect it and protect his home, which is at Hogwarts, which I love. Okay, I also love Hagrid in the books. Hagrid in these books, like, first of all, look at him on this cover. Like, how fantastic is that? I love it. Yes, I loved seeing how all the characters are slightly different than the way they're represented in the movie, and then how Ron, Hermione, and Harry all became friends. Because literally right before I updated you, I think, I talked about how like insufferable like Hermione was, and literally right after that, like they became friends. I really liked seeing like that really subtle like, okay, from here on out we were friends, and it just like, it was so like nostalgic in a way, because it was like they're 11 years old in this book, and like that's just the way like 11-year-olds, I imagine, from like at least what I remember, become friends. Like this one thing happened and they were like, and from there on out we were just friends, and that's how it was, and they were good friends. So I'm really happy about that. I've been debating on if I wanted to start Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets tonight, but I am tired and I kind of wanted to give myself a little bit of a break, because like I said, the books are really slow moving. Like they're really like slow pacing. I don't know why, which is kind of surprising, but I don't know if I want to start them yet. I've also been reading them on my Kindle. Like I've been heavily reading the book. Like I've read most of this book on my Kindle, and I'll probably end up doing the same thing for the Chamber of Secrets. I downloaded it on my Kindle already. I'm trying to decide if I want to start it tonight, because I usually cut myself off at 10:30 for reading, and I think it's 9:46 right now, so I can actually probably get a good chunk of this in tonight, which is something I might do. And I'm so excited because this is the one where Dobby comes in, and I absolutely love Dobby. And I have so many questions about this one as to like why Dobby just shows up, and like what Dobby's reasoning is for like Harry Potter not going back to like Hogwarts, obviously to protect him, but like who is Dobby and why does he care so much? You know what I mean? Like even in the movies, I feel like that wasn't necessarily explained. He's just some elf that comes saying that it's not safe for him to go back to Hogwarts, and he's like, what do you mean? And it's like, if Harry didn't go back to Hogwarts, then like Hogwarts would have been in ruin. So anyways, yes, I think I'm actually going to start this tonight. I will let you know, I guess tomorrow, if I end up starting it. Hello, you guys. It's the next day. I have started reading Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets already, and I am about, actually, I've been reading it on my Kindle just because it's so much easier to hold, because these covers, or like this edition of the book, like doesn't, like the spine doesn't like break easily, and I don't want to like really like crack it, you know what I mean? I am now 34% into the book. It's going well. Weird for me to like read the things that I've already like literally seen in the movies, and like how they play out in the book compared to how they've played out in the movie before, because there's so many like differences, or just like so many more details and like scenes that happen within like these big giant overall chapters. The chapters are actually pretty long. Most of them are over 20 minutes. There's always like specific chapters where it's like big things that have happened in the film that are like good turning points, or like good like, or just like what am I trying to say? Like I don't want to say milestones, but you guys know what I mean. Like big things that happen always in the books or in the movie are like basically like main chapters in the books, and it's just like differences of like how they're being played out, and like longevity wise of like how long the scene is and stuff like that in the film. So it's like really cool to see. The one thing I actually really do love seeing in this book, at this point it's Lockhart, who is the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, and they literally say that this is like a job that nobody wants. Like he was the only one who wanted it, that like that position, like they think it's jinxed, they think it's cursed, and I think that's so funny. But then also to see Lockhart's character, Lockhart is so obsessed with himself. He is way more unbearable in the book, but unbearable to a point where it's funny. Like he literally like loves the fame that he has, and like he in the book is just like all about it all the time, and he's just like, you know, Harry, like, and there's so many instances where he's like comparing like Harry is like, you know, famous, and like his fame compared to Harry's fame. He's like, you know, I wasn't famous when I was 12, but you know, there's your time will come. And it's just like, Harry's not trying to be famous. Harry literally just is famous because of who he is. And it's just so funny like how Lockhart is so like disoriented from reality and just like thinks so highly of himself. One of my questions actually about Dobby was answered in the beginning of the book, which is actually like helpful for the rest of the book, because in the film you don't really get that answered. It kind of just something that happens and you're like, okay, how did Dobby, like you kind of knew how he knew, but you don't know why he's doing what he's doing, and you kind of got the answer to it, which is nice because then it helps play out for the rest of the plot. Yeah, but I'm at the point in the book now where Harry just had to with Professor Lockhart. It's so funny to see like in Harry's mind of like what he's thinking. He's like, literally there's no way that this could go on any longer, and like how much he like is just there, and he's just like, are you kidding me? Like it's a really funny like little circumstance. But anyways, I'm gonna continue reading. It is a really gloomy day here in North Carolina, so perfect day to read Harry Potter, honestly. So I think I'm going to put on a little like fall atmosphere fireplace that I've been using recently. It has like really nice like jazz music. We're coming up on like Halloween in the book. Hello you guys, it is a few days later actually, I think, since the last time I've updated you, but I did finish Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I'm actually moving at a really fast pace with these books. Well, I don't know, it's kind of weird because I feel like I'm moving at a really fast pace because I read the first 2 books, I want to say in a week's time span, and that includes obviously me being at work, me just reading in my free time, like things like that. Being able to read the first 2 books in a week time span, I feel like is pretty good. I will say though, like, and this is something I've been saying, I think because I've seen the movies so many times, I'm not as interested in the books because the movies have stayed very true to the books. Like, there are certain things that happen, or like the time spans, that's everything that's happening in these books, like the events and like the way that they're playing out is a little bit different than the movie, just because for the movie it makes sense for the events to play out in the ways that they did, whereas obviously in the books, like the time span that is taking place is a little bit longer. Either way, I am enjoying it. I think I'm gonna enjoy the next few ones a lot more, probably like the 4th, 5th, like from the 4th book on, because they're much bigger and I feel like are going to give a lot more information behind certain things compared to like what they could do with the movie. I'm absolutely loving the stories though. Like, I am very much like captivated. I'm very much loving being in the world of Harry Potter, if that makes sense. I mean, I don't know why it wouldn't. But anyways, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. A lot of my questions that I didn't even know I had were answered. Like, something like about this book, like a connection I obviously never made, was because it wasn't like necessarily said in the films, and I don't want to say it now because I don't want to spoil it for anyone who's never read the books or have seen the movies. There was like a special connection in this one that I made as to like why everything happening, and I was like, huh, that's very interesting, the fact that that happened that way. I don't know what else to say about it. I liked this one. This one was good. It was entertaining. I liked the way that Dobby is portrayed. Like, he is like the little elf on the back. It's so cute, just the way that he is. It was good. And I'm ready to move on to the 3rd one. I don't think this was as much of an update as I thought it was gonna be. Just to tell you, I finished the 2nd book. And we're moving on to The Prisoner of Azkaban. Hello, you guys. It's actually been a few days since I last talked to you guys. I have not started reading the Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I really fully thought that I was going to be able to like read every single book in this series like straight through. That's usually how like I've read series before. Like, I usually get so addicted to them that like I cannot stop and I have to go to the next one, especially when like the next one's already out. But with Harry Potter, I don't know like what it is. I think, let me adjust. Okay, I think because I've seen all the movies so many times, I'm finding myself just so like not interested because I already know what's going to happen, and it's like not really like a surprise to me, you know. Like, it's weird because like obviously like when you reread some of your favorite books, you already know what's going to happen and you already know how the book plays out and things like that. But like when it's your favorite book, like it's just a totally different feeling, whereas these like aren't my favorite books because I've never read them before, so I obviously don't like get that feeling of like it being like so magical, if that makes sense. I don't know how to describe it, but I haven't started reading The Prisoner of Azkaban yet because I didn't want to like put myself in a slump. I was feeling slumpy honestly. I was feeling really slumpy, so I decided to read just like something that gave me no brain power in between the first 2 books and this one. But I do want to start reading this one today though, because I would really like to finish this series before this current month is over. I'm filming this and it's November, but I am excited to start Prisoner of Azkaban because get a little bit more information about like Sirius and stuff like that. And I do actually really love this movie, so I'm hoping that I actually get a little bit more details and stuff like that into this book. I don't want to feel slumpy. Like I don't want to feel like I don't love this book series because I've watched the movie so many times. I want to love this book series because I also love the movie so much. You know what I mean? When I'm reading it, it's definitely like feels really magical and like diving into like this childhood feeling that I have. I actually have it loaded up on my Kindle. I have been much preferring to read on my Kindle, but I do actually have to charge my Kindle. I'm only on like 20% or something like that on here, so I do have to charge it, or I can like switch over to it, but that's okay. I think I want to read the physical book for a little while because I do love reading the physical books, but according to my Kindle, the book takes about 7 hours to read. You know what? It's Sunday. I think I can do that. Even though this book literally is like thicker than the first 2 books and they took me at least like 2 days to read. So I guess we'll see. The one thing that I've noticed in the last 2 books, or at least like this one and then Chamber of Secrets, is that she always recounts like the Dursleys and like Harry's background as if like, because like you can't really go into these books without reading the other 2, if that makes sense. Like I mean, like I guess with the way that she's been describing things, you could read them like not in order and probably like kind of understand what's going on, but like she always recounts. And like even here she put, I'll read you this like little paragraph because I don't understand like why she does it. It's just kind of unnecessary because we already know all of this information. So like this first sentence would make sense because making it known like the Dursleys on Privet Drive, you know, like it's like a very clear distinction of like the fact that like they're very normal people rather than like Harry, you know what I mean? Like Harry being a wizard and stuff like that. Like she really wants to like ingrain like they are not magic people, like they are what they call, you know, in the books, muggles. But it always recounts like the background of it and it doesn't make any sense because like we already know this information. Okay, so let me just read it. This really isn't a spoiler, especially if you know what the first book is about and especially if you've seen the first movie. Like this, none of this is spoiler information, or if you've read the first 2 books. The Dursley family of number 4 Privet Drive was the reason that Harry never enjoyed his summer holidays. Uncle Vernon, Aunt Petunia, and their son Dudley were Harry's only living relatives. They were muggles, and they had a very medieval attitude towards magic. Harry's dead parents, who had been a witch and a wizard themselves, were never mentioned under the Dursleys' roof. For years, Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon had hoped that if they kept Harry as downtrodden as possible, they would be able to squash the magic out of him. Like, why do we need to recount that every single time? Like, that's just something we already know. Like, we already know this information. I don't understand. Like, we know that they're muggles. We know that Harry's parents died. Like, that's like the whole reason like these books started is because Harry's parents died. The Dursleys never told Harry that he was a wizard. And it's not like a secret that they've treated him poorly. That's just like the one thing I don't get. And then like she'll recount, like even down here, it says Ron Weasley, who was one of Harry's best friends at Hogwarts, came from a whole family of wizards, which we already know. Like we know this from the first 2 books because she's already recounted it. We know Ron is Harry's best friend and comes from a line of wizards. Like it doesn't make sense as to why she keeps repeating it. Anyways, I'm gonna continue reading. I just wanted to put that little tidbit out there. Hello everyone. It is, I think, a day and a half later and I've finished The Prisoner of Azkaban. I'm excited to be done with this one because now I can move on to The Goblet of Fire because The Goblet of Fire was for a really long time my favorite movie. It'll probably end up being one of my favorite books in the series just because it's so like entertaining and like there's so much going on that I think I'm really gonna love that one. Before I get into that, I want to talk about The Prisoner of Azkaban a little bit. I really, I know I keep bringing up the movies, but like that's just because like that's where most of my experience has been coming from. Also, Also, a side note, I'm not feeling that well, so excuse me in my appearance as well as the way I'm talking. I really like the changes that were made into the movie from the book because, well, one, just like the sequence of events for the movie made sense for the timeline of the movie, right? But the way everything happened in the book, I also really liked because you got a lot more background into some of the characters. Like, you were introduced to Sirius Black, which is Harry's godfather, which Harry doesn't really figure out until like middle of the book that that is his godfather. And you find out so much more about him because some of the things that were going on in the book, I was kind of like, wait, how are they gonna change this to make it so like Harry is suddenly like good with him, if that makes sense? Because it's like a really like quick flip of the switch where like Harry's like, I hate Sirius Black, to him being like, oh no, I love Sirius, you know what I mean? I don't think that's a spoiler, especially if you've seen the movies, because everyone's like, oh, he's after Harry, and it's like, yes, he's after Harry, but he's not after Harry because he wants to do anything to Harry, if that makes sense. Like, I'm really like finding it hard to like describe and talk about the books because like I'm just like, I have so much comparison to the movie, and I really feel like obviously if you've seen the movie, like none of the stuff in here is a spoiler, but like I don't want to like say too much and then it end up being a spoiler for people who have never read or even seen Harry Potter. So it's kind of like, where's the line? Like, where do I cross it? You know what I mean? My one big issue though, I'm like finding myself getting really bored during like the mundane activities that are meant to feel super, super magical. You know, like there's like really big, like long chapters and sequences that are cut out of the film, but like the main point of that chapter and like the main big thing that happens is left in, you know what I mean? So like all this like big, like this giant big sequence, like say like a Quidditch match, right? Like there's like a big old Quidditch match going on and it's like so much detail and so much is being talked about this Quidditch match where I keep finding myself getting bored and like kind of like I put down the book and have to take a break because I'm kind of just bored during that section because it's meant to feel like magical and like really like involving you and putting you into this world of like what they do as wizards in this world. But because I know the big thing that's happening, I'm like, okay, to me this isn't important information for what's happening, you know? Like it could be way more brief of a thing like talked about to then get to the big part of the book, you know what I mean? Or the big part of like the chapter, like the big thing that's happening that ends up moving the story along. So things like that. Whereas some of the stuff does make sense for like later books where I'm like, okay, like this is important information for like a later book, but like this isn't important information for what's going on in this book right now. So that is my only like thing, and it's definitely a me problem. This isn't definitely like a thing, the series in general. I do think if I had read these books first before seeing the movies, I think I would have been obsessed and in love with these. It's a very much like good like coming of age series, if that, yeah, obviously that makes sense. I think I really would have liked it because I do love coming of age stories and like young adult books, but I really do think it's because I have seen the movies so many times that I keep finding myself getting bored because I know what's going on, because I know what's happening. I finished this book. As if you noticed, I haven't been rating them at all because honestly, I don't know what I want to rate them because, and like, I don't want to give it a low rating. Like, I feel like it definitely deserves more than what it's getting. You know what I mean? If I were to have rated this book right here and now, I probably would have given this a 3 stars, honestly. But like, I don't know, like it definitely doesn't deserve a 3 stars. Like it definitely deserves more just because of like the thought and like planning that goes into like a series like this, especially like for her to make a whole 7-book series about this like one character, you know what I mean? So like, yeah, it definitely deserves more, especially since like the stories are vastly different in each one and they're still using the things that they learned from the last 2 books into these next ones, but like they're all still vastly different. Like the storyline is all heading to the same place, obviously, like the overarching plot line. Each story plot is different and exciting, so it definitely deserves more than what I feel like rating it, just because I know the story so well. We're gonna be starting the Goblet of Fire. Very exciting. How many pages is this one? 617. Let's see how quick I can read this one, honestly, because that one I read in a day and a half. Even with taking breaks, like I got through 50% of The Prisoner of Azkaban in one day, and I guess we'll see how long it takes me to read this one. Hello everyone, it's about a few days later. I am currently reading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire now. I don't know if I know I updated you in the last book, but I don't know if I told you that I had started this yet. I don't think I did. Yeah, I started Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and so far this one's actually quite a bit more interesting. There's obviously parts in it that I feel like are really kind of slow, but so far some of the information in the book, there's like so much left out in the movie from the beginning of this book, which granted like kind of makes sense, but I'm really liking the information I'm getting. I'm on chapter 9 and I'm just now 100 pages into this book, which is crazy. Like look at this is 100 pages in. Like where I'm holding up, that's 100 pages into this book. That's crazy that it looks like that. But anyways, I mean, I read books longer, so like I don't know why I'm like looking at it and I'm like, oh my god, you know what I mean? I've read books longer than this. So I don't know why I'm like, I don't know. I'm enjoying this one a lot more than I have enjoyed kind of like the last 3. Not that I haven't enjoyed all of them, I have, but like I said, like I think in my last clip, I 100% said something of like, I think just because I've seen the movie so many times and it's so hard for me to like be super interested in the books. So I'm trying a different pacing of them because so far the pacing is super slow. Like it's not like fast paced. Like a lot of the stuff that happened in the previous chapter, because they just went to the Quidditch World Cup, which was like super fun and exciting to see because it's like introducing you to new characters, and the fact that like this is like the wizarding world is so like vast and like large compared to like what Harry is, you know, like used to. Like he's like, it's kind of absurd for me to have thought that it was just England or just Hogwarts that was the only school around for wizards. Like to see all the other teams and like the Quidditch World Cup, like such a cool like thing for him to experience. I mean, there's a lot of things that she put in here that I'm like, I don't think this is important information. Like some of it is, like some of it is definitely to kind of like low-key introduce characters that you don't think are gonna be important in really mundane things. So I really like what she's doing there because obviously after seeing the movies, I know that these characters are not like throwaway characters. They're not just being introduced for funsies, you know? They are being introduced for a purpose, and it's really fun to see her like put them in such a mundane situation, being like, oh, this is just this person. Or like, even if they are a person like of higher power, being introduced in such like a relaxed way. I really like how she's doing that, because then it's like, okay, well, like their introduction is important and everything else that's going to be about them afterwards is also going to be important. So that's something to remember. But yeah, I'm 100 pages in now. Like I said, I'm kind of changing up my pacing on the way that I'm reading these books just because I don't want to like hate them, you know? And I also feel like I would never hate them. Let me just back that up right there. I know I'm talking a lot. I'm so sorry. Anyways, I feel like I'm a bit slumpy, and I feel like I might have been slumpy though before I started the series. And I think I started the series thinking that it would help get me out of my slump because I loved the movies so much. But I don't know. I think I'm feeling super, super slumpy. It's making me not enjoy these books as much as I could. So like that's where I think some of my problem is coming in with this reading vlog, you know? Anyways, I'm gonna go continue reading and I will catch up with you guys later. Hey you guys, so it is actually a little while later, way later in the week. I am actually on chapter 35, page 564 of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. So far, I've been like, I have been enjoying this one a lot more than I feel like the other ones. The differences between this one and the movies is quite drastic, I feel like. I mean, overall plot-wise, not, but like there's so many more like added things in the book that are definitely not in the movie, that are like completely cut out, that I would have never even known about. But yeah, I only have 2 chapters left. I am going to finish, well, technically 3, counting that one. I'm gonna go finish, talk to you guys when I finish it. It's a little while later now, and I've finally finished Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I'm excited, well, okay, excited in a good way that this one's over, because this one ended with a lot more information than I thought it was gonna end. Like, there was so much more at the end of this book to like lead into the next one and to like see why that one's gonna be so long. So I'm actually excited to like go into the fifth one, because it is so long that I'm like, okay, what kind of information is actually gonna be in here that's like not in the film, because it's so much thicker. All the other books, like, it's literally the longest one. I'm excited, but overall I did really like this one. Everything about the tournaments, fun to read about. Actually was expecting the book and like more of the things that go on to be more about the tournament than it actually was. Like, the tournaments were only like their own chapters. Like, granted, the chapters were super long. The entire book wasn't necessarily about the tournament, obviously. Like, there was so much more that was happening that one I felt like wasn't necessarily important. In the end, like, obviously all wraps up, but I feel like some of the things that like were going on weren't as important and could have been placed in other places throughout the book. Overall, I really liked this one. I don't really have anything else to say. I don't want to give any like type of spoilers about the book, and I know I keep saying this, and it's just because I've seen the movies. So like, I have such a different perspective on the books because I just know so much information already compared to like someone who's never read the books and or has never seen the movies. So like, I'm not like as shocked as like other people would be reading these books and being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened, because I'm like, yeah, I knew that was gonna happen because I've seen all the movies. But yeah, it's fun being in this like world of Harry Potter, because it's just like so much different than other fantasy books that I've read, because I almost like don't even want to call this a fantasy. I want to call it like, you know what I mean? But it is a fantasy book because it has to deal with like magic and like magical creatures and things like that. But like, it doesn't feel like a fantasy. You know, like, this is a very easy fantasy to understand because it's just like meant to bring you into this world of wizards. Finished Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and we're gonna move on to Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. But I will see you when I start that book, because I don't think I ever actually updated you at all while I was reading this, which is fine because I knew everything that was going on. She did a really good job, though, I will say, as a side note really quick, really good job of like redirecting you during this, especially if you kind of already knew what was gonna happen. The one thing though that I didn't like about this, whereas like the whole thing at the end of the book, because like, you know, like, Lord Voldemort is planning a return. So like, and if you've read any of the other books or you know anything about the series, like, you know that that's just something that's happening. The whole thing as to like how he gets from A to Z, you know, like towards the end of the book, of like how, you know, like Lord Voldemort plays a role in this book, just kind of seems to like come out of left field, because like, at least within the movie, it was very like, if you picked up on some of the certain signs, it was like, oh wow, like that's super obvious, right? Like, oh, this is gonna make sense on how this is gonna end up from A to B, from B to Z, you know what I mean? Whereas in this one, it was kind of out of left field. Like, there was no like interaction or much plot in that way, or much like storyline with that to get there, you know what I mean? Which I guess like maybe like for the ending of the book, because the ending of the book in this one, the way it's like all plays out is definitely different than the movie. I do think like plot wise is all summed up the same way essentially, but it is different, which I think like, I guess like for this book in particular, it makes sense as to how it happened this way, but at the same time still feels like it came out of left field. Like, it was almost like very random, and I think that was the point, because she did redirect you in thinking that like something else was gonna happen, and then it didn't, you know what I mean? And then at the very, very end, you found out like what that storyline was for, or like why that storyline was not correct, and like where it was actually going. I'm sorry if none of this is making sense. I'm truly trying not to do any spoilers for you guys. So that's that. That's all I've got to say, and I will see you guys when I start the Order of the Phoenix. I don't know why I'm saying welcome back to this vlog, because you've been here the whole time. I've been the one who's been away. I am currently like 80% way through Order of the Phoenix. Let me tell you, it's been a struggle to try and finish this series. I think it's because I kind of set like a goal for myself of finishing this series before the end of November. And let me tell you, today's November 29th. Which means I have today, well, the rest of today and tomorrow to finish this series. And that is this book and then the other two books. I'm 649 pages in, and I think there's legitimately like 800 pages exactly. Yes, there's 800 pages exactly. So there is like a little over 100 pages left, 150-ish pages left. I've decided for the rest of this vlog, we're gonna spice it up a bit, okay? We're gonna spice up this reading vlog by turning it into a little bit of a reading challenge, okay? Because like I said, I wanted to finish this entire series before November ends. Now, do I know if that's gonna happen? No idea. No idea. But we're gonna turn this Harry Potter reading vlog into a 24-hour reading challenge to see if I can the rest of these books in a 24-hour time span. So the same thing applies. I'm not gonna be staying up all night to be reading these books because, first of all, I'm older than I look. I can't be staying up 24 hours, okay? That's just not happening. Second of all, because these books, honestly, they're really cozy and make me want to go to sleep. So I don't even think I'd be able to stay up 24 hours to read them. Second, I won't be stopping the timer for anything like small, like getting up, going to get a snack, or like going to the bathroom or things like that. But for like big chunks of time that I will not be reading, I will pause the timer. That is going to be the rules for this challenge. But before we get into, you know, finishing this book and then jumping right into the next one, I want to talk about the Order of the Phoenix for a little bit because you haven't seen me read any of it. You haven't seen me do anything related to this book or talk about this book in any way, shape, or form. She's a chunk. Okay? She's a chunk of a book. A lot of things I've realized in these books is that there are so many things that are left out of the movies, but honestly, very like necessary things that can be left out of the movies because they are not necessarily important to the overarching plot. Like they can still move the story. Like the things that they left out are things that you don't necessarily need to get the plot moving or keep the plot going. There's a lot that goes on in this book that I feel like makes it like drag on like for the main point of it, considering like this one is so thick and like to me not a lot is going on, so it doesn't make sense. The one thing I will say that J.K. Rowling does is amazing, an amazing thing that she does in this book. She makes you hate Professor Umbridge so much. Like literally, I hate this woman more than I hate Voldemort. Like she does an amazing job of making you hate this woman more than the actual nemesis and villain of this series. Like the fact that I just want to punch this woman in the face. The fact that she's making me feel that about a fictional character is insane. She makes me want to punch this woman in the face. I have never wanted to beat someone so much. I actually have never hoped a character has died or have been murdered so much compared to this woman because she is that god-awful of a person. Like I don't even hate Lord Voldemort as much as I hate her because she's just doing these things just to do them and to be spiteful and like just to be like being like, oh, I have the power over you. Right? Whereas like Voldemort is like, he knows he's bad and he knows what he's doing is not good, but he also like believes his own victimhood of like, oh no, I'm doing this for the betterment of the wizarding world. Whereas she is just doing it just because. Like she literally gives no shits about any of it. Let's finish the Order of the Phoenix, okay? Because this chunk of a book I feel like is gonna take me a little bit because it's very slow paced. Very slow paced. So let's finish her up, shall we? I just finished the Order of the Phoenix. It took me literally 3 hours and 18 minutes, which is crazy. Okay, let me tell you, she loves to drag things on in these books. Okay, that is like my biggest, I guess, beef with them is the fact that they just like, she drags on certain scenes and just like certain things going on for so long, like just unnecessarily long, which to me doesn't make sense. I'm like, why is this being dragged on for so long? Like if you guys have seen the films, which I obviously keep going on and on about because that's like the thing that I have to compare them to. There's that fight scene in the Department of Mysteries. If you guys know what I'm talking about, if you've seen the films or anything like that, even if you haven't seen the films, nor have you read the books, the Department of Mysteries is not really like a spoiler thing necessarily if you don't know what's going on. But yeah, so there's this place called the Department of Mysteries in the Ministry where they end up going and there's like this fight scene that happens and it dragged out, I think, over 3 or 4 chapters in this book, and the chapters are over 30 minutes long. Like the chapters are very long. So the fact that it like dragged on that long is insane to me. Like that's like, it did not need to go on that long. Like this whole fight that happened did not need to be dragged out. I finished this. I was also watching the 5th movie while I was finishing it. I am actually going to start on Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince to my Kindle. This is actually my favorite film out of all the Harry Potter books, so I'm very excited to start it, and hopefully that this one is a little bit more entertaining, because I feel like this is the one where, like, if anything, they might have changed it the most, because I feel like there was just so many things that were probably left out of this one, because this one is the one that, to me, and every time we watch it, I love it, don't get me wrong, but like things just like kind of happened out of nowhere, or like these things like popped up out of nowhere that I was like, okay, like how did we get from here to here from the last movie? But okay, I am going to start it now. Since it's getting a little dark, I probably won't update you until like certain points, or like however long I am into the challenge, because like I said, I am now 3 hours and 20 minutes into this challenge, which is absolutely wild. I also want to clarify, I wasn't reading this for 3.5 hours straight. Essentially, there was times where I did take a slight break. I did get distracted by my phone for like 10 minutes, and then I had to walk my dog, and then I had to go get a snack, and then I went to the bathroom, so things like that. So it wasn't necessarily in exactly that long, but the fact that it took me that long to finish the last 20% of the book, insane. I'm gonna get the other book too, so that I can have like the spots to mark, because I also like seeing the progress in the actual book itself for me. So yeah, I'm gonna get the actual book, and then I'm gonna start reading. I am on chapter 3. Let's see, how many pages is that in? 32 pages in. Going on 4 hours. I am so tired. I'm sitting here, I'm like reading this, I have my heating pad on me, and I'm like, my eyes, they're like crossing as I'm going. The books make me sleepy. Like, I can't tell if it's just because it's like dark out now, or it's because I'm bored. I don't know. It's just like nothing's happening right now. The thing that happens right now is like the vow Snape makes to Narcissa. So I was like, okay, cool. That's it. Guys, I'm now 7 hours in this new challenge that I've given myself for reading these books. I am now on page, let's see, where am I? I am 143 pages into the book. I'm 25% of the way through. So I'm on chapter 9, The Half-Blood Prince, which is literally what the book is called. 7 hours in, 143 pages. It's kind of crazy, because I haven't been reading this whole time. Like, I mean, I've been reading, but like not the entire time since I last updated you. I think it took me like 3 hours to read the last 150 pages. Was it 3? I don't even remember. I don't remember. That's about on par. 3 hours for 150 pages. That's about on track. An hour to read 50 pages. I'm not good at math. We're not gonna go there. Anyways, but that's how far I am into this book. I am going to continue reading it tonight, but right now it's 9:45 and I need to get ready for bed. So I'm gonna take a shower and get ready for bed. And when I'm done getting ready for bed, I'm gonna continue reading. Literally, you guys, I am enjoying this one so much more. Like, I am actually so interested in it right now. Like, this one I'm very much liking so far, and there's like nothing different about it. I guess more of like the fact that it's just like there's a lot more like mystery in a sense in this one, because like, granted, even though I know what's going on, it's just like there's so many other things that I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. And then there's other like little plot points that I'm interested about, because there's already been like significant noticeable differences, but like good differences where it's like, okay, I can see how they left that out of the movie, but also like how it makes a difference while you're reading it, like the reading experience, you know what I mean? Obviously we're getting a little bit more of Draco in this one so far. We're also getting a lot more of like Dumbledore, because Dumbledore is not really in any of the other books. Like, he is, like, obviously he's a really big character and he's very important for the series overall, but he wasn't in the books that much. Like, he didn't really do anything. Not that he was hardly mentioned, but sometimes he was like hardly mentioned in any of the books. He's so far in this one a lot more already. The one thing that I literally, like, I know the last clip that I had said to you about was like, I was like falling asleep on the floor. I had realized those first 3 chapters were literally completely cut out of the movie. Like, they were so non-important to the plot of the book, where like they were breezed over in the movie by showing you like Harry reading the newspaper, and like that's where all that information from the first 3 chapters was. was just like in the newspaper that Harry was reading in like one of the opening scenes. Isn't that kind of crazy? That they were so, not that they were so unimportant, just like the setup was just so not entertaining for the first 3 chapters of this book, and now it's going really great. Now it's going great. It is finally the next day when I'm updating you, and I'm now officially 12 hours in. Unfortunately, I definitely am not gonna finish before tomorrow, which is December 1st. I am a good ways through this book. I have been reading basically all day. There has hardly been a point where I've stopped. I mean, I stopped for a little bit, but I am now in chapter 19. I'm 68% through the book. I am got this much actually left. Crazy, I know. This one's like much shorter, the other ones obviously, but I'm now in that like weird lull point of the book where it's like things are kind of boring. I fell asleep. I'm gonna read for a little while longer before like dinner time and stuff like that, and then obviously continue reading throughout the night. I probably don't know when I'm gonna update you again, obviously, because I would really just like to finish this book. But yeah, at this point it's like that boring like middle part where it's like nothing much is really going on. It's like all of these like theories and stuff like that that like Harry's like having and like going through, where Ron and Hermione at this point are kind of like in another like spat and fight where they're not speaking to each other. So like Harry's always like weirdly in the middle of this like weird spat that they're having. Like in almost every book there's like periods of time where like, well, Hermione and Ron won't speak to each other because they're fighting, and now Harry's like stuck in the middle of it. So that's also going on right now. But yeah, nothing like super interesting. We are getting parts of like the pensive where Harry and Dumbledore like looking back at old memories. So that part is interesting because you're getting a lot more information out of those chapters than you did in the movie. Like when it came to like looking back at old memories, you only, I think, really saw 2 old memories in the film, and there's a lot more in these ones that I actually think are very interesting. So I'm gonna go. I actually have to charge this camera battery. Didn't even realize. I'm gonna charge the camera battery, and then the next time I update you, I'll give you a little bit more information, I guess. Maybe it'll be when I'm on to the next book. Who knows? I have some exciting news. I finished Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince last night, so that's very, very exciting. I am now 18 hours and 13 minutes in. Started the timer again because I have started Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I know I'm not that far. It says I'm only 6% in. I'm on chapter 4. Let's see how many pages that is. I'm on chapter 4, The Seven Potters, and that's 33 pages in. Wow, I thought I would have been farther in, but I mean, honestly, I'm not that surprised. It is now December 1st, which means I have failed at finishing the Harry Potter series before November ended, but honestly, I don't think it'll take me super long to finish the Deathly Hallows because it's pretty long. It's over 600 pages, but I think I could do it. I don't think I'll have any issue achieving it, because how many pages was... I finished it in like a day. Oh, this one was almost 600 pages. So really not that much of a difference between the two. Let me talk about the Half-Blood Prince. I really liked. Okay, compared to like all the other books where like I just felt like everything that was happening was stuff I already knew due to having seen the movies. Whereas this one I felt kind of the same, but there was actually so much that I felt like was changed throughout both of them, where like this wasn't necessarily like, oh my god, I know exactly everything that's going on. I really, really loved this one. This one was super entertaining. I actually like was interested the whole time. There was only one time where I got kind of like bored towards the middle, and that's kind of like where that lull was, where there was like nothing happening at that current moment other than like the passing of time and events to lead up to like what was coming. You learned a little bit more about Voldemort in this one compared to like the film. In the film, I felt like you really didn't know anything, even throughout the entire like movie franchise. I feel like you don't know as much about Voldemort as like you would think you would, considering like he's this big bad villain, right? Whereas in this one, you find out so much. Like you find out so much about him and as to why like all this is happening, and like the prophecy with Harry and stuff like that, and how Harry's supposed to defeat Voldemort, right? The whole 9 yards. In the movies, it's like not really clear as to like, okay, he just keeps going after this boy because he survived, right? Like there was no like nothing. So yeah, and then you don't get a lot of Draco in this. You also don't get as much of Snape in this one as much as I thought you would have. Like you don't really find out much. This is mostly just about like Harry like figuring out more about the Dark Lord than in the other previous books. Anyways, this one was good. This one was fun. A lot of things were left out of the films that like did surprise me, that like kept me very entertained during this time of reading it. And I think that's probably why I liked it so much, was because it actually was very different than the other ones. I'm reading The Deathly Hallows now, and I'm excited to finish it because right now I'm at the part where they're about to transfer Harry over to the Burrow. We're gonna see how that goes, okay? We're gonna see how that goes. That's usually a fun, interesting time. I also love this cover of this one. Like, this one is super pretty. Like, despite, you know, despite this whole scene, the cover itself is very pretty. Also, Harry just looks so young on the cover of this book. Like, look how young he looks. Like, he literally looks like a 12-year-old in this picture, where I'm like, nope, he's actually 17. Full on 17 years old in this. Doesn't look 17 from the cover. No, he looks about 12. So, all right, well, I'm gonna continue reading on my Kindle because I love reading it on my Kindle. It makes the time go by so faster, or so much faster. Hello you guys, it is a little bit while later. I am actually 20 hours and 15 minutes into reading. I am only 17% of the way through The Deathly Hallows so far. It's interesting, like obviously the beginning of the book is very similar to the movie. There isn't much differences there, but I only have about 4 hours left to finish reading. See how far I can get into The Deathly Hallows. Because if I don't finish within this, 24-hour time span, then I will have failed the 24-hour challenge of this reading vlog, because literally the whole point of me setting myself on a timer was so that I could finish them within that time span. I've been reading a lot more slowly today. Let me take my glasses off because there's a bit of a glare. I also have a sty in my eye, so sorry. That's why I have to wear my glasses. But I've been reading a lot more slowly and I've taken a break. So I did pause it for a while because I just needed a break from reading. I just started it back up because I'm gonna go start reading again. I'm still gonna get like probably halfway through the book today, if anything. Like if I, at the 24-hour mark, don't finish it, which I probably won't, I will probably be at least halfway through it. So like that's a good ending point for, the 24-hour challenge. Then I'll just finish the book and then tell you guys about it, because obviously. But so far, like I said, I'm only 17% of the way in on chapter 7. So I'm not too far into it of like the main plot of like what's going on yet. Like they're not hunting for the Horcruxes or anything like that yet. So yeah, it's just kind of all the mundane things that are happening before getting to the good part. So anyways, like I said, I'm gonna go continue reading and I will see you guys, I guess, either when this ends or when if I hit the 50% way mark, if that happens beforehand, I don't know. Good evening, you guys. I had like a little less than 10 minutes left. I took a really long break today because I honestly was just so sick of reading. So I stopped like before the timer went off because I was like, okay, let me just take a break. If I want to keep going, I will. I so far am 41% of the way into the Deathly Hallows. There we go. I didn't get as far as I wanted, but honestly, I also took a nap during the day too. So I like lost some time of reading. Yeah, anyways, I'm gonna finish out this last like 10 minutes reading, even though this chapter is 18 minutes. I'll probably just read this chapter, honestly, and then that'll be it for me for this right now. I don't have anything else to say. I didn't finish the challenge. That's okay. Well, I did finish the challenge. I'm going to finish the challenge. It's just more, in fact, I didn't finish the book before the challenge was over. All right, so as you see, 24 hours is up. I unfortunately did not finish. It's now 8:30. I'm still gonna continue to read. I'm only gonna read for a little bit longer. I just got like really sick of reading today. I haven't read for like that, like for so many days in a row where like all I did all day was read. Like I usually do other stuff throughout the day as well. So I was just so sick of reading. But now I'm on chapter 17. Let me check in my book. A big chunk of the book left, so 43% of the way in, almost halfway though. Page 269. I mean, it's gonna be like a good ending to the series, I know for a fact, especially with everything that I know that's coming up. But that's about it. I don't have anything else to say. I'm gonna continue reading and I will probably check back in with you tomorrow and or when I finish the book. I don't know when that will be. I'm really gonna try and finish it tomorrow because I really just wanna move on from this series so that I could read some other things, because I've been really putting off reading other things, so I could just read this so that I can finish it and get this out for you guys. You guys, I officially finished the Harry Potter series. That's so exciting for me. Oh my god, I'm so glad that I ended up finishing it. I'm glad because it's just like a long series that I was able to get through all of them, but not glad because like it's over. You know what I mean? Like I genuinely did enjoy all of them. Like I thought they were all great, especially as a series, like seeing how like each one continued each year, like it was something completely different, but also like still kept you in that world of Harry Potter. Amazing. Because I feel like it's really hard to write a series where you're literally writing 7 books based off the same characters. Like I feel like J.K. Rowling did that really, really well, and making them all connect together. Like she had like this all planned probably, right? Like she had this like giant overarching plot line of like what was gonna happen, and she split that up essentially within the book within 7 years, which is insane. We're gonna ignore this mess back here, okay? Those are all currently right now Christmas presents that are still in the boxes, so we're gonna ignore them. We're also gonna ignore the mess of my side table. Anyways, let's talk a little bit about the Deathly Hallows. Very much enjoyed this one. I enjoyed it like very much through and through. Like there was only a few parts in there where I felt like it was really dragging. Oof. I think after like maybe the 60-ish% mark, it kind of just like kept rolling. Like it really kept rolling one after another. Like things were always genuinely happening, which was nice because I didn't like it when it just like felt like things were stagnant because of the way that the flow of the book was going, which I felt like happened in some of the other books. But yeah, I genuinely enjoyed this one, and when it ended, I was just like, huh, that's so sweet. Like in the way that it was just over. And I was like, wow, she really loves to end things abruptly. Like they just end. I don't know if people think that's a good thing or a bad thing. Personally, I was like, wow, okay, I feel like this is like the one that you could have dragged out the ending a little bit more to kind of like see how everything is wrapped up after the fact. But no, literally she just ended it and then went to the epilogue, which was 19 years later. And I said, oh, okay. So something I actually want to talk about with the series as a whole is that when things were happening, like big things, she didn't write that very well, I will say, because there were times where like big things happened where like a really big thing within the plot. Like, I mean, it's not a spoiler. Like we know like you have to know what happens at the end of the book. Okay, let me put it this way. She writes death almost so nonchalantly. Okay, I'm gonna just say it that way. Someone had died within the book. It was almost like I didn't realize what had happened. Like it wasn't like this big drawn out thing, which I guess maybe like that was like her intention to do. I don't know. But in other books, it's usually like this big old thing, right? It's like a huge deal. And hers is just almost like it's like brushed by. Like it almost like just happens. Like, which is fair because it in this book like kind of does just happen. Like when a character passes away, they're just literally like, it just is done. Like that's it. And I'm like, okay, I feel like that needs to be a bigger deal because I literally like was reading this and had no idea that was going on until like I went to the next page and they were talking about it. I was like, wait, what? Because she didn't make it a big deal. I thought I was just reading something and then it happened. And I was like, oh, okay, that's weird. And then they went and were talking about it. I said, okay, weird. Yeah, that's something that she does throughout every single one of them. But I'm happy as a whole that I read these books. Like, I feel like it just like enhanced watching the movies for me in a way because like I'm so used to the movies, right? That's what I've been talking about this entire video is that like I keep comparing the books to the movies because all I've done since I was 12, I think, is watch the movies. Like I never read a book. Like you couldn't pay me in high school to pick up a book, right? Which would have been like most like prime time for me to have been like reading this series probably. Now that I've read the books, but I've watched the movies so many times, I feel like it just like enhances the movie aspect for me because of like all the information you get in the book. And it's like, oh wow, so much information that was like never super clear to me because so much was like, not so much was taken out, but things were taken out obviously for movie purposes are so much clearer and make so much more sense. Also, what I enjoyed about the books is that like literally a lot of the questions that I did have because of the movies were answered within the books. So a nice little sense of like happiness, because I was like, oh wow, okay, that's why that happens, or like that's why they did this, and wow, I loved seeing that part written in the book because that's one of my favorite parts in the movies, like, and like getting all this more information about that specific scene in the film, you know what I mean? That was another thing I really, really enjoyed about these books. Now, it comes down to, I never rated any of these books, and I am going to be quite honest, I don't think I'm going to. I'm not going to rate any of them. Truthfully, I just don't think I could give them a fair rating based off of the knowledge that I've already had. What I'm gonna say is if you're someone who is a big fan of the films and you've seen all the films, things like that, I don't know if I would recommend even reading the books. Like I'm happy that I did read them, but I think I could have gone without and still been as happy, you know? Like it just like, because what I love about reading and what I love doing when reading books is going into them blind. I went into these with literally the blueprint and like wanting to act surprised, but I couldn't because I literally had the blueprint already. Like I had the blueprint for years for all of the books, so like I literally couldn't be surprised with them at all, or like be on the edge of my seat, or like, you know, really be like transfixed into the story because I had no idea what was gonna happen next. What I'm gonna say is if you are a big fan of the movies and you've never read the books, I honestly am gonna say I don't even know if you should read them or recommend reading them. They did a great job with staying very true to these books, so you almost don't need to. Obviously, if you want to enhance like your love for Harry Potter and like see for yourself, absolutely. But if you're someone who has never seen Harry Potter or read Harry Potter ever before, like you're going in completely blind, I highly recommend reading the series because it is so interesting. And like when you just like watch like the evolution of all the books, like how Harry goes from like the first book to this last book, it's really amazing because you see Harry grow from this like young child who doesn't really understand anything about the wizarding world to literally like conquering this like dark wizard that is like trying to take over everything. It's just a really entertaining plot line and really cool to see because as it went on, I definitely enjoyed getting like more of the backstories with certain characters, getting more into Harry's backstory and Ron's and Hermione's and Snape's backstory, like, and Dumbledore's and things like that. Like I would absolutely love to see more things come out of this series like they did with Fantastic Beasts. I absolutely loved Fantastic Beasts. I never read the play or anything like that, but obviously I had watched the movies, and I would love for those to have come back and like been bigger and better than what they were. I would love to also see like more of like Voldemort and like how Voldemort and Grindelwald even overlap, because there is overlap of them and that's just not talked about in this book. How like Dumbledore literally defeated Grindelwald. This is probably a spoiler. Anyways, if you don't want to hear it, don't listen. Dumbledore literally defeated Grindelwald as Voldemort was in school, I'm pretty sure, or like right after Voldemort would have been of age to like go to Hogwarts. So like this would have been like new information for him, even though he knew nothing about wizards. Like even though he was a wizard, because Voldemort obviously was also like Harry, he grew up in an orphanage. Like I said, if you don't want to listen to this, don't listen to it. But grew up in an orphanage like Harry. Well, not like Harry. He was an orphan, basically. Okay, I'm not making no sense. Voldemort was an orphan. So like as he got to Hogwarts though, this would have been information that he would have heard about, because this would have been a big thing that one of their professors had done. He had just defeated Grindelwald. It would have been a huge thing and he would have known about it. And obviously he does know about it eventually because it is talked about. But I would have loved to see more of that and like it more in this like universe of Harry Potter, because I think it is very cool and interesting. I don't think I have anything else to say about this book or this series because I just finished it, and I'm, like I said, I'm very, very glad that I did end up finishing it. I can't believe it took me so long though. Like literally took me so long. Oh my god, I started reading it. Let me tell you my timeline. I don't know when this video will be out. I'm hoping to get it out soon because now it's December 5th. It's like December, yes, something like that. I read the first two books the week of Halloween. Yeah, first two books the week of Halloween. I think I read the third book the first week of November, and then it took me a week and a half to read Goblet of Fire, and then took me basically the most of November to read Order of the Phoenix, and then I did the 24 hours in this video of doing the last two books, I think. I don't even know my own timeline, but that's fine. So it took me a while to read them, which is okay, it's fine. That wasn't really important to anything that was going on. Like I said, I am very, very glad that I ended up reading the Harry Potter series. Like I said, I do recommend it to people who any knowledge of the Harry Potter universe or seen any of the books, or seen any of the movies. Anyways, I think I'm just gonna stop there because I don't have anything else to say. Like I said, I enjoyed the series very much. and I am glad that I experienced it. I'm glad that I read it. I don't know if I will ever read the series again. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Like I said, I enjoyed making it for you, and don't forget to follow me on all of my social medias as well as subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.